Hey guys, I'm in New York City just hanging out. Hey guys, I'm in New York City just hanging out.
Hi everyone, I'm the Clone, and in this video I will be going over the funniest shit that I've ever played with. And that is AP Shaco, also known as please report this useless piece of shit, thank you. Agreed, X9 Shaco, FF15. I gotta admit, I might have not carried 1v9 each game, but goddamn if I didn't have a fucking blast playing with this shit. But don't get me wrong, I didn't troll in int every game, no. As a matter of fact, I started to respect this build more and more. I knew it would be hard for someone like me to get used to AP Shaco, but I think I might have just done that. Not only have I didn't even started to carry some games, thus I wasn't flamed every 2 seconds by my team, but I also started to enjoy AP Shaco the way one should, and that would be by frustrating the living out of the enemy team. Hell, I even had games where half the battle was done in the chat alone. But all in all, I have to be serious about this build, playstyle and champion. Yes, I have to be serious about AP Shaco, I know. But that's because, albeit AP Shaco was fun and all, AP Shaco is completely different from AD Shaco, and there's no denying saying that AD Shaco has much more utility in the early game, and not only it has a lot more control on when and who it wants to engage, but AD Shaco is also a lot more reliable and consistent. And we all know that reliability and consistency go hand in hand when it comes to getting to the high ranks in solo queue. Performance over hundreds of games is what truly matters. It's what shows who holds the real power, not a flashy play where a dude walked into a box as the clone just blew up behind him.
Boom.
Or the scrapes.
Bing, bing, bang.
Drop the bomb, man!
We can all laugh at these guys all day, but they alone will not give us an over 60% win rate so we can get to Challenger. And that is what this video is about. Finding out whether AP Shaco is real or it's just a joke. And in order to do that, I will start with the items. But before, for those of you who are interested more in some things than others, or perhaps just want to skip some of the parts of this video or rewatch others, here are all the timestamps for each of the chapters in this video. Beginning with the first one, items. The most popular item on Shaco is Liandry Anguish. For good reason too. This is the best item for AP Shaco. Starting from its passive to the stats, it has the best synergy with all of Shaco's abilities. The only other item that can dare rival Liandry's is Night Harvester. This item has better synergy with Shaco's E. And as I will soon go over Shaco's abilities order, we'll be able to find out that AP Shaco lacks a lot of power early game when it comes to executing enemies, as since you're playing AP, maxing W will be optimal, and this results in E lacking power. But Night Harvester somewhat fixes that, which is the only reason why this item is worth considering, besides giving you 10 more AP and 300 HP. But clone, you might say, you said that Liandry's is the best item for AP Shaco, period. And my answer is, indeed, that I said. And that's because no matter the fact that you get less AP, no HP but mana, which it's useless in the jungle, you do get something. Burn damage, which is reapplied whenever you damage an enemy, and it's useful when you play a champion like Cassiopeia as you have poison abilities, which reset at burn damage, and Shaco has something similar, his boxes. These little shits can be as devastating as they are useless. They reapply the burn damage over and over and over again until your target melts. Passive is devastating, and it's worth all the trouble to get it, and that's because this item is expansive, and unlike with AD Shaco where you get the Dark Force, the power spike in the early game alongside the Sheen, AP Shaco has no power spike until this item. You can of course still demolish people early game simply because of Shaco's base stats, which, by the way, since the only thing that differs from AP and AD Shaco early game are the runes, there won't be that much of a difference playstyle wise. Meaning that again, yes, you can ruin people's days by playing the same you would with AD Shaco early game. Stop time. Let me give you a pro tip. While invading the enemy jungle at level 3, and you know that the enemy jungler started bot lane, as the enemy bot laner was late to lane, meaning that they leashed him, that giveaway right there by the way, you'll find yourself in the enemy jungle, but goddammit, they have a jungler with really fast clear speed, who's also OP and meta at the moment. So what do? You place a ward, but you still don't feel safe. Even after you drag the red buff into the bush, you still have a feel that the enemy jungler will show up before you finish it. Oh well, my friend, there's no need to worry. See this bush? Yes, that one. What? You might say confused. No one uses that bush. And yes, you're right. No one thinks of using it because they have no idea they can use it. But now you know, you can use it. And if the enemy jungler shows up, we all know that they'll never check that bush. They'll just be like, oh well, fuck Shaco, I guess. Now, what if I told you can do something very similar on the blue side as well? If you spawned on the other side and started with the red buff, you can still easily invade while being pretty much 100% safe. Just watch. Pause right there. You're probably thinking, no way you can feed the entire blue buff into that small pixel brush. And you're correct, you cannot. But what you can do, and if you've watched my previous videos, you know that abusing the vision system in this game is something I enjoy doing in my free time. Thus, what you can do with the blue buff is drag it behind that corner. It technically makes no sense for that small corner to be able to hide the entire blue buff, but it does. Just look at that. Look at how close the enemy jungler would have to get to see it, while you're casually taking it. Now that is what I like to call a quality blind spot. Because even though it looks like you have vision in certain areas as the dark fog clears, you actually still don't have vision in certain spots. And that's why I like to call the vision system in this game trash, because it's misleading. Hashtag Riot please fix. Anyways, what will the enemy jungler do? They'll probably just say, oh well, fuck Shaco, I guess. And for good reason they'll be pissed. Wanna know why? Because 9 out of 10 times they'll proceed to do the frog next. And since you warded, you can now see every move they make. You know what? I'll leave it be. You already know how this is gonna end. Speaking of the wall at the frog, you can also abuse Shaco's crazy Q range to blink from positions you had no idea you could before. And if you pair that with the fact that you do not need to face towards the direction in which you want to blink, all you have to do to pull an insane joke on the enemy that was chasing you is face towards the opposite direction in which you want to blink. And as I mentioned earlier, because of the insane Q range, you can blink like this, making it 100% impossible for the enemy team to guess that you've actually blinked in the opposite direction. It's crazy, I know. Also guys, before we move on, I just wanted to add that it takes me weeks to make videos like this one. Thus, if you want to support me and the channel and want to see more guides, just don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you have not done yet so.
This is fucking bullshit.
Charity aside, back to the items. So with Liandry, it's not just about melting enemy champions. No. This is the item that allows you to place the box on any jungle camp, eat a big one, and let the box just solo finish the camp. Especially since boxes do AoE damage now, and the jungle item just so happens it basically does the same thing as Liandry's passive does. And that's why Liandry is the best first item on AP Shaco. It feels like you're a boss. You don't have to do anything really. Your empowered boxes just do your bidding. Except there's another item, an AP item that does the exact opposite, Nashorn's Tooth. This item says fuck off to all of that and instead relies on your backstab spam for damage. And I have to backtrack a bit for that. Backtrack to the early game, where you're still a level 1 crook and have only gotten a plus 20 AP book. Let's talk about Shaco's passive damage relative to the box's damage. A box can do up to 800 damage to a jungle monster, like the blue buff for instance. But while your box tanks and deals damage to the respective camp, you don't just sit there, you're spamming your passive on that blue buff's ass. How much damage do you think you get to do yourself before the box dies? That's right, almost just as much as the box itself, if not even more. Unlike the late game, here it's not just the boxes doing all the work for you. Shaco's backstab passive helps do half the job as well, not to mention your E with crit, which by the way also gets bonus damage from the passive. But Nashorn's Tooth is not the best first item on AP Shaco. It's an option, there's no doubt about that, I've seen people play with it. But Liandry does something Nashorn's cannot, and that is, it gives you the best damage on your boxes, especially against tankier enemies, without forcing you to go in. Without putting yourself at risk, just get a few backstabs in there with that bonus AP damage on attacks. Liandry doesn't lie to you, and yes, Nashorn's Tooth lies to you. It lies by giving you the false impression that you're actively doing something, that you're backstabbing the jungle camps in order to get them. But it's all an illusion. Why would you want attack speed to use your backstab when you can just let the boxes do all the work while you move on to the next camp? Not to talk about how when compared to Liandry's, the Tooth doesn't give you any real power against enemy champions. AP Shaco is supposed to be played from distance, to bait enemies, not to go in. If you do that, you're bound for failure. Thus, attacks won't get you anywhere. And that's because the next item on this list is Cosmic Drive, a saving grace for AP Shaco. Not only does this item give you the highest cooldown reduction out of all items in this game, but it also gives you decent AP and some HP. Now this item is the best when combined with Liandry's, and that's because Liandry's Anguish doesn't only give you CDR in its stats, respectively 20 ability haste and also 80 AP, which is the same amount, but as I said, Cosmic Drive gives you the highest CDR out of all items. And that's true, because of its passive, which not only gives you 20 more ability haste, getting you to a total amount of 60, but it also provides you with 20 movement speed, which is always welcome given the recent nerf. But that's not all. As Cosmic Drive is a legendary item, Liandry's Mythic passive provides you with an extra 5 ability haste, bumping the total amount to 65, and if you somehow like to use Transcendence, you'll get an extra 10 ability haste. We're at 75 now. Congratulations, you've gotten yourself over 40% CDR with only 2 items. 43 to be more exact. What the heck. 42.889777% CDR to actually be exact. And that again, only with 2 items. Because when you get a full build, you'll be having over 100 ability haste, which lowers your box's cooldown by half. But don't be impressed by that, because all this ability haste, it's something you'll use. No, it's something you'll need. Ability haste, or to be more OG, cooldown reduction is the cornerstone of AP Shaco. That's right, it's not the insane AP amounts you can stack and destroy the late game with. You're not looking to break records. If you want to be actively useful with AP Shaco, this is the way. I have a feeling someone must have said it before me. Anyways, Cosmic Drive enables you to use your abilities in order to play the game properly, as you're no longer a basic attack focused assassin, you're a caster, and quite an annoying one at that. And while you're enabled to cast abilities properly, it's Liandry's that gives them worth, with its passive, Agony and Torment. They help you do 2 things. The first one is to f tanks right in the ass, with its 12% bonus damage from enemies' bonus health. And secondly, of course, none other than Torment, who burns enemies for a fixed amount of damage plus a percentage of your AP and a percentage of the enemy's max health. And just like that, we've gotten ourselves the best, most insane synergy between 3 items only. One of them that even vanishes after a while, giving you even more room for AP while you keep all its stats and passive. How convenient all of this is. But wait, there's even more. There are even items that are bugged on the clone, which obviously give you an advantage. I mean, this wouldn't be a complete Shaco build without involving some bugged item and a clone. Horizon Focus. It's a pure damage focused item. It gives you 115 AP that only big boys items give and a simple passive. Now, here's where we have our fun and confusion. Hypershot. I don't think there's supposed to be a sexual reference in there, so I'll move on. Anyways, this passive is quite simple. Basically damaging an enemy champion. It's not like you damage an allied champion. Anyways, doing so at a range of 700 what? It's not specified in here. Like, what fucking measure unit is this game even using? Fuck it. I'll just use a banana for scale then. Point is, if we're ever getting to it, you do 10 extra damage to enemies who are at a distance of 700, banana for scale, away from you. And it works well with boxes, as you're usually sitting at a distance away from them, but then your clone comes in and says, fuck to all of that. And that's because when your clone explodes, it instantly applies the 10% bonus damage, regardless of how far away you are from it. And your boxes just go ham after that. But you know what? I'm not even surprised. I've already made my pissless video with the fact that the clone is the real champion, while Shaco's just a fucking minion. So next time you play against an AP Shaco, focus the clone, especially if it gets close to you. Trust me, that thing is terrifying while it's alive. Who knows what it might do? Maybe it's even got a consciousness by now, and it's making me tell you to focus it if it ever gets close to you, which makes no sense. Stay away from it. Run, my dudes. Save yourselves before it gets to you as well. The next item on our list is perfect and has no bugs to worry about. Especially none when it comes to the clone. And that item is Zhonya's Hourglass, also known on the streets as the bigger brother of Cockwatch. This item further improves your ability haste monopoly with a bonus of 10 out of 10 and is being built from the Seeker's Arm Guard, which is really good as it gives you up to 30 armor and 20 AP. Except in order to get a 30 armor you need to stack its passive, which says that it gives 0.5 armor up to 15 for each unit killed, which to be honest is vague as fuck given that according to the wiki a unit can basically mean 1,000 things in this game. But no matter, because I got you. A unit in this case also means minions.
These animals are loyal and fearless.
Or jungle monsters, meaning that even though a camp like EFC only gives you a creep score of 4, you can basically stack half of this item's passive on that camp alone. Anyways, after you turn it into Zhonya's, you get a total of 65 AP. And of course, the pièce de la résistance, 45 armor against those bastard AD assassins that have no place in this perfect game. A quote from Riot Games balance team. Also, quick fun fact, a human's lips are made from the same skin texture as the butthole.
Today, on Michael's Toys.
The more you know. Luckily for Shaco, it seems he has no lips, nor a nose according to the latest skin. Now, I know leprosy is a bitch, but seriously now, how can it be that fucking bad that whenever... Last important thing about Zhonya's is it's active, which I will talk about more when regarding the combos you can use when going in and attempting to make plays. But for now, what's more important about it is that it can be useful in any matchup. Next, Rabadon's Deathcap. Good item, if you like lots of AP, go for it. Of course, it's best bought as a late game item, as you need the other items early to give you utility. But Rabadon's quite insane. It gives you 162 AP on its own, which is only further increased by 35 for each 100 AP you have. aka your total AP gets increased by 35%, which, if you haven't guessed so far, it's pretty crazy. So buy this item the second you get your core build in order to boost the damage of your boxes into oblivion. But wait, what if I told you that you don't need the most expensive item in the game to do that kind of damage? What if I told you there's an item almost 1000 gold cheaper that gives you even more damage? Void stuff.
It's so big.
Yeah, this item will gives you 70 AP, but it also gives you 40% magic penetration. And if I'm not mistaken, and I know I might not be the best when calculating percentage resistances and so on, but last I checked, the 40% you get from Void Staff is more than the set 35% you get from Rabadon's Deathcap. On a slightly more serious note, magic penetration is much more important than just raw damage, and it's mostly given to the fact that people just like to buy more resistances as well nowadays, and Void Staff is just perfect to counter that. And this item works especially well when combined with Liandry's burn and the extra damage from the enemy's bonus health. And now, here's a side-by-side comparison of the damage. On the right side, the Rabadon build, and on the left, the Void Staff build. Of course, you could just go Deathcap right after Void Staff, and that's true, but why would you? The enemy team is full of shields, and your boxes aren't going to do anything against that shield bow Vayne. Who the fuck plays Vayne with shield bow anyways?
Oh my god!
Why the ADC role feels so weak. Why the ADC role feels so weak.
Go back!
Anyways, my point is, it's dangerous to go alone out there. Here, take this. Oh fuck, that's the wrong bag. Here, take this. The fuck do you mean, what's that? That's Serpent's Fang, the most meta item. I thought you needed at least one meta item in your build to make it work. It has good stats, I guess. And its passive reduces all shields by 50%. Look, this item is perfect, trust me guys. Alright, next, runes. I like runes. We all do, right? The main keystone I like to rune with this build is none other than the classic Hail of Blades. Wait, that's the wrong script. Dark Harvest. That's the keystone I like to run most with this build. Why? The answer is simple. Dark Harvest works really well with E as you can execute people, especially as you lack power on E early as you tend to max W, thus it helps mitigate the loss in damage. And when scaled in the late game you can execute like a boss with it, especially if you opt to go for Night Harvester or even Luden's Echo. Next, Chip Shot is really good. You can reset the true damage with your E's passive, which makes it much better than Sudden Impact, especially in the early game where fights are prolonged, and you can get to make use of it multiple times. Then you want Eyeball Collection. It's really the best choice here. I mean, Zombie War can be decent if you're playing support, and Ghosporo, oh well, nobody plays Ghosporo, and for good reason, it's harder to stack. So just stick with the best option that everyone uses, which by the way at full stacks it gives you plus 30 AP. Next you want Relentless Hunter. Yes, some of you really told me that Ultimate Hunter is good for your clone, as it gives you 31 ability haste at full stacks on your ultimate, but Relentless Hunter is still much better. You're a jungler and need early to mid game, movement speed is 1000 times more useful. Movement speed is probably the most underrated stat in this game, even though it proves time and time again how important it can be. Now for the secondary rune tree, you have two choices. The first being Sorcery, where your two best choices include Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. Both of these runes focus on raw damage gains. The first one, Absolute Focus, it can give you up to plus 30 AP at level 18 as long as you're about 70% HP, meaning that this rune is really good when you want to scale for the late game, which is exactly what AP Shaco wants to do. Next, Gathering Storm does a similar thing. It gives you AP every 10 minutes in game, and after 30 minutes you get plus 48 AP. Now when we take this 48 AP from Gathering Storm and combine it with the 30 AP you get from Absolute Focus and 30 more AP from Eyeball Collection, plus the 9 AP you get from the basic runes, we get a total of 117 AP. 117 AP from runes only. Now that's something. Or you can do what the clone would, and that is to say fuck to all of that and go for inspiration for our secondary runes instead. Now albeit, if you go inspiration secondary, expect yourself to play more of a supportive role, and that's because you'll have less scaling power for the late game, but more for the early game. With Futures Market you can get items faster, as AP early game items are more expensive than AD ones. Thus, with inspiration as secondary you can buy items a bit faster and keep to a closer phase when compared to how fast AD Shaco power spikes. Then you can go for either magical footwear or watch. It's really up to you whichever you prefer more. One last choice when it comes to runes, you can go for Sorcery as the primary 3, with Arcane Comet as keystone. I for one have found little success with Arcane Comet. Yes, it can be quite useful early game, but its inconsistency combined with the fact that with the longer the game goes on, the more power it loses, while other choices like Dark Harvest do the exact opposite, all that really made me consider not to play with this rune at all. The only place Arcane Comet works is when playing support, as you can consistently harass the enemy laner with E, thus enabling it to stack damage fairly quickly given the rune's slow cooldown. Now that we're finally done with all that explaining, I'll quickly go over the build and runes order to make everything look clear. First, you want to go for tier 1 boots with Lost Chapter. Then you want to complete your boots. Now here's something I haven't talked about. The reason why I haven't talked about boots is because there are two choices: the Sorcerer Shoes and Boots of Lucidity. After playing with both, I would pick Sorcerer Shoes 99% of the times, simply because of personal preference, and because they obviously give you more perceptible damage, meaning that I can see the extra damage I do throughout the magic penetration these boots give. But I don't find the Boots of Lucidity a bad second option either. Again, just like with the runes, do you want more damage and feel like a carry, or do you want to provide more utility and support to your team? After boots, you'll complete Liandry's and start building Cosmic Drive. If you find the enemy team heavily focused towards AD damage, you can also get Seeker's Arms Guard before finishing Cosmic Drive. Now you'll have Liandry's, boots, Cosmic Drive and Zhonya's. Next, you unvoid stuff, or, and only in some situations, you want to go for Deathcap as your 5th item. And those situations are when the enemy team doesn't have any tanks and you're really ahead. But in that case, as you build Rabadon as your 5th item, you want to go for Horizon Focus last. Like this, you'll have insane damage while also having decent utility. Last to mention, there are 3 more options. Morellonomicon is really good for it's the equivalent of Mortal Reminder, and thus helps you against enemy teams that have insane healing capabilities. Demonic Embrace for when you want to be tankier and you feel like you need that extra burn damage, as your playstyle is a bit more defensive, where you let your boxes do the work. And the last item I'll be talking about is Magi's Soul Stealer. Now if you want this item to work, you'll need to be a bit tryhard, but you should know that getting a Dark Steel right after the jungle item is optimal. Then I will go for Magi's only after I have fully stacked the One Ring. Wandering to find them, bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. And now obviously at the end, the Elixir of Sorcery really shouldn't be forgotten. Oh, and also swap the classic stealth word for Oracle Lances. Don't forget to buy control words, and now you should be good overall build wise. Runes. Domination with Sorcery is the best choice, where Dark Harvest is the main keystone. Then you want to take Chip Shot, Eyeball Collection and Relentless Hunter, while for the Sorcery page you want Absolute Focus with Gathering Storm, then Attack Speed for clearing the jungle and better First Blood potential, Adaptive Damage and Armor for even more sustaining the jungle. Oh well, what can I say now except that, as I've shown, AP Shaco can be really strong and I loved playing with this build. I had a lot of fun playing and really, I think this build and playstyle is really good. Except, it's not. And I'm fucking lying. I've had a terrible time playing with this build. I had to throw away all I knew about Shaco and reshape my playstyle from the ground up. But I think it's also what gave me the opportunity to truly see and understand what this build is all about. AP Shaco can be fun to play, but it's also useless at times. Its carry potential can be less, it's easier to counter than AD Shaco, and even when you do a lot in fights and feel like you can carry, you can still lose. Because doing damage is not the most important thing you can do in fights. AD Shaco can do picks. It can easily one-shot the carry before an important fight at a certain objective, which can really impact the course of the game. On the other hand, with AP Shaco, you feel like you do a lot while your team flames you for being useless. And again, if you don't get your team to follow up and finish the enemies off, which is something AP Shaco can struggle with, aka chasing properly, you won't be able to solo carry like a Vayne would. Also, objectives are much harder to focus on with AP Shaco. Having the ability and versatility to solo sneak or secure them is crucial, especially in solo queue and even more so in higher elos. And AP Shaco struggles with that. You might find really less success with AP Shaco overall simply because of the way meta is right now. But not only, it's in the nature of the playstyle to perform differently, to be focused towards something else. Thus, you'll have fewer games where you'll solo carry and end up with crazy KDAs and so on. AP Shaco can, at times, even feel like a second support but in the jungle. In all honesty, it's a lot harder to find success with AP Shaco. Picks are more important than crowd control, and solo securing objectives is more important than zoning in teamfights. And most importantly, AP Shaco is easier to counter, and gets countered harder when compared to AD. And that can especially impact your performance, as AP also lacks the power in the early to mid game where usually AD rules. Thus, temper your expectations. With that being said, let's move on to the next chapter of this video, which is playstyle, combos, and strategies. To be honest, there aren't any real combos here. You're not driven to have to do Q, Q, R, Q, assign dance move to custom key to cancel auto take animation, Q, Q, E, Q, W, Q, R, assign custom key to spam mastery level 7, no. None of that shit. You jump in, ult while staying in stealth, and pray they'll kill the clone. Then while they're feared, place a box in the middle of the action, and hope that no one will kill it with a random ability or basic attack that the only reason they even used it on the box is because they misclicked. Zhonyas if you get caught, and hopefully by the time your invulnerability expires, your Q comes back. And that's just a really hopeful suicide run style. On a more serious note, what you want to do is preparation. That's your combo. Place boxes at choke points. It's your safest bet. Like this, your enemies will either have to clear them or walk into them to not lose the objective. Also, place boxes in certain places where you know you can bait enemies to jump on you while you are in the middle of them. That's also usually how you get the funny moments where enemies die to the classic Illuminati boxes triangle. To quote one of the notes I took while playing and trying this strat, for each play you do where an enemy walked into a box while your clone exploded behind them, you'll have 10 where they simply attacked the box once, or dashed, blinked, or simply walked away from you. Just like Singed, you depend on your enemy's determination to kill you in order to make plays. AP Shaco has a reactive playstyle, where AD Shaco has an active playstyle. AP Shaco is a denier of plays, while AD Shaco is a playmaker. A quote from Gandhi himself. So it must be true. The reactive playstyle is where you react to your enemy's actions by being prepared with boxes and pulling tricks with your clone, whereas with the active playstyle, you're the one who dictates the pace. You decide to go in and eliminate the carry with 2 backstabs and a shield, while the enemy is reactive in this situation. They either have to flash away, use heal, or have their support help them with a shield, or have you stunned. They need to react to disengage you, and you can counter that by using the clone to defend yourself. By playing AP Shaco with an active playstyle, you'll find little to no success, as in order to dominate your enemies, you'll need them to kill your clone or walk into a box. The only active play you can do with AP Shaco is walk in the middle of a team fight and use your clone while keeping your stealth. But even then, you rely on the enemy team to kill your clone, which once again goes to show that you rely on a reactive play to eliminate your target, which is basically just doing the same thing AD Shaco could do, but with extra steps.
With extra steps!
Oh, also quick pro tip before moving on, you can use your clone to reposition yourself. I know, you most likely knew that you can even use it to pass through walls, but if you use your Q to blink in the middle of a team fight and then instantly cast your ultimate, your clone will always be the one who spawns in front, meaning that if you were to do the not so recommended suicide bomber strategy, this would be the way to go. Or as mentioned before, you can use your clone first and then just as it's about to expire, you jump in the middle of a team fight and get a perfect explosion on multiple enemies. Then place one more box on top of them while they're feared. Execute low HP enemies with the and the help of Dark Harvest, Zhonyas if you're in trouble, and play around your Q's cooldown. It usually acts as both an engage and disengage tool. You know the drill.
Go crazy! Go stupid!
Now let's not waste any more time and move on to the skill order. Actually no, let me give you one more tip before. When clearing the dragon, as mentioned before, it'll be much harder for you to do it fast and safe. Also you'll have to use your boxes as the primary source of damage. Thus, my best tip to you when securing the dragon is the following. First of all, if it's a dragon that has splash damage on its attacks, like the Infernal or Mountain Dragon, do not try to kite it and go for backstabs at all times. Because if you do that and it attacks you while your box is behind you, it'll instantly kill it. Also, never place a box before the dragon does its push, because it will push the box as well, rendering it useless. By the way, here you don't need to use your Q to cancel the Drake's push as your AP. The distance you need to place the boxes for them to activate and damage the dragon is 300 range. Again, here's a banana for scale. And of course, the dragon will always target whoever is closest to it, meaning that you need to stay quite close to it if you don't want your boxes to get cancelled. And yes, all dragons one-shot your boxes, including the Cloud Drake, despite its slow damage. Extra pro tip against the Cloud Drake: it does damage from your HP, meaning that if you're super low HP, you don't actually need to fear it, as its attacks will basically do close to no damage. And extra pro tip against the Mountain Drake: because of its super low attack speed, you can get it to attack your box after it has basically expired, meaning that you can get your boxes to tank a shot for free without losing on damage. Also, fuck the Ocean Drake. And when it comes to Rift Herald and Baron, never let the box tank them. They will both one-shot it. Baron won't actually kill the box if it becomes invisible while in the Baron pit, but the second it activates and someone else isn't tanking the damage, the box will instantly die. The Baron can also kill the box with one of its abilities. Thus, I do not recommend for boxes to be placed behind it, as they are most likely to meet Rambi before doing any significant damage. Hashtag Riot please fix. The point is, doing damage with AP Shaco to the Baron is a bit trickier. One more crazy tip before moving on is, whenever you use your clone, for a split second you shift into the 5th dimension. You're not always safe there. For instance, Ignite will still damage you if it was applied prior to your space and time trip, or stuff like chain abilities aka LeBlanc C will still proc, and after you come back, it'll be easy for the enemy team to tell which one of you is the real one. Even worse, stuff like Twitch Z can actually still be cast and fuck you up, meaning that you'll disappear alive and reappear dead. Also, funny enough, the clone always gets away with 1 HP in these situations. Anyways, the good part about this mechanic is, just like you can still take damage, you can also heal, meaning that you can ult, smite and reappear full HP. And your enemies will be like, excuse me, what the f? Alright now, let's talk about the skill order. When it comes to which ability you want to max first, well, with AP Shaco it's quite different. Where with AD, you simply want to prioritize maxing E. With AP it can be more complex, one could say. You want to prioritize W in order to farm better and so on, but you also don't want to lose all of your execute power by not putting any points into E. Thus, these are the maxing orders I've seen to be used more commonly. You want 1 point into W, then you max Q as it gives you the ability to blink, then at level 3 you obviously max E. From then on, you max W 2 more times, then you finish maxing E. You'll end up with 1 point in Q, 3 in W, 5 in E, and of course, max R whenever possible. I've also seen the opposite though. Some AP players go from 2 points into E and W to 5 points into W, then max E. Also, the maxing order that I've preferred using most was, after getting 1 point into each ability, I just max W. Like this, your boxes will be able to easily solo camps, with you only having to E once the big monster. Also, because of the cooldown reduction you get from Cosmic Drive, you'll be able to clear the camps even faster than with AD Shaco without losing any HP. The only time I didn't max W was when, after putting 1 point into each ability, I proceeded to max E one more time. The reason for why I did that was, if upon getting to level 4 I was in a fight or was just about to invade the enemy jungler, I wanted to have that extra execute damage on my E that I could combo with Ignite and Dark Harvest for an easy takedown. Now, for the last chapter of this video, I will be talking about the 3 most important phases of the game: the early, mid and late game, as if there are any other phases in a game. And I will also show you what you need to do and what to focus on in order to dominate as AP Shaco at all stages of the game. First of all, the late game. I'm just kidding. I'll obviously start with the early game. Here you can still do the classic level 2 invade. The only more advice that I can really give you here is, you're playing with Dark Harvest instead of Hail of Blades. But don't be put down by the fact that you won't be able to instantly burst anyone in 2 seconds for a secure first blood. Just be more careful when you deal your damage. Your E still has an insane amount of power, meaning that you can delete almost anyone just like before. Although sometimes, and this is a really big brain move, so I'll just call it another 1 million IQ tip, early game, just as you invaded, your enemy will be confused most of the times. Thus, if you YOLO jump them, they might get scared off and instantly flash and so on. Instead, what you want to do is pretend that you're dumb as fuck.
Real disrespectful.
Let them do some damage to you. Make them believe that they can win the fight. And even if you get down to really low HP, trust your burst damage. Lure them, give them hope, and just as they're about half HP, Q in place for an instant backstab, Ignite at the same time, and E with Dark Harvest for an instant one shot. And that will really fuck them up. I mean, don't you ever have a fight that you know you should win just to lose to some bullshit? Well, they'll think just that. Except it was all part of your master plan. Anyways, now that we're over the psycho part of this video, my other tips for the early game are: use your backstab. A lot. Is the source of half the damage you will be doing to jungle monsters, even if you max your boxes. Trust me, never underestimate your backstab. Speaking of the backstab, Riot, please fix. The problem the backstab has is that the visual hitbox of anything really doesn't match with the actual hitbox, meaning that it can easily look like you should be getting backstabs, but because of the actual hitbox of the dragon for instance, you won't actually get a backstab. Also, pro tip here, if you start your attack animation, even if said enemy instantly turns around, you'll still get a backstab, even though visually that enemy was facing you at the moment you attacked them. Lastly, for the early game tips, focus the bot lane. Hashtag better bot lane always wins, hashtag bot diff. Moving on to the mid game, what I want to say here is, you really need to bait and to play around both the enemy and your team, and be the denier of plays. You need to play reactively in order to perform and max potential. The only reason why people fail and die with AP Shaco is because they try to play actively, but more often than not, you'll find yourself in situations where you will need to be the one who's making the plays, but you lack the power and proper playstyle of the build in order to do so, which will only lead to both you and your team being frustrated. Also, as you approach the mid game, you'll probably be around level 12, meaning that you've pretty much both maxed your E and W to the max, and you also got some Dark Harvest stacks, meaning that you can now rely on your E to execute enemies that wandered into your boxes. Also, due to the high cooldown reduction you have, you can spam your E before fights in order to harass enemies that don't have the range to respond. Also, if you don't go for stuff like Zhonya's or Demonic Embrace, the enemy Kha'Zix who's 0 in 10 can still one-shot you. You know, it's kinda funny, except that it's not supposed to be a joke.
This is not right. This is not cool. This is fucking bullshit.
And now, for the late game part, what I can touch most on is securing objectives, also how you have to prepare for them, and teamfights. In teamfights, just use your clone. If you're not the enemy team's main target and you load the clone in the middle of the fight, in the confusion created, the enemy team will inevitably kill it, resulting in mass hysteria.
Santa's brother is here, in your area, causing mass hysteria.
Also, you need frontliners, as unlike with AD Shaco where you can engage yourself, with AP going in YOLO it can be more difficult, thus you rely more on your teammates to make plays. You also need to be more of a team player and help your team by playing around, thus the idea with this build and playstyle is, you act more as a secondary support that can do tons of damage, but then again, that's really dependent on the situation, because you might have crowd control and AoE damage, but you cannot control all fights. And something really f***ed up that you'll have to deal with, enemies can literally just walk through your boxes. Because of a magical thing called terrain elevation in this game, enemies can just walk through boxes and not activate them. AKA, this game also compensates for the fact that there's an upwards inclination in the terrain. Thus, even if visually it may not seem the case, the enemy is actually much further away from the box than it appears, thus they do not trigger it. Also, you can see that the game tries to compensate for this range by visually lowering the box's circle. Once again, banana for scale. Also, you can see here another perfect example with this Ash World. Notice how it changes trajectory because of the way the map has lower elevation in the river. That's exactly how champions work as well. Again, that's why sometimes it will seem like they just walk through your boxes without triggering them. Also, as I already clarified that enemies can easily one-shot your boxes in the late game, jumping in and placing a box in the middle of a fight is really not gonna work most of the time. For instance, Samira's Q can just delete your box with ease, little f***ing bitch, and if you're playing against Shaco, focusing the boxes should be a priority. Otherwise, oh well, it can be quite devastating even when the Shaco's not fed.
Boom.
So then again, never place your boxes where your enemies can see them, always take them by surprise. On the brighter side, boxes can block skill shots like Morgana's Q, Aris E and so on, but you have to time them perfectly. Besides, as I said, because they don't have that much HP, especially in the late game, they will be one-shotted, little f***ing bitch. Just like it's really smart to destroy Gangplank's barrels when chasing him in order to rid him of the ability to both slow you and boost himself, it's also smart to kill the boxes, especially since he's got such a high cooldown on them. You can also do insane outplays when chasing someone with your clone. These moments are fun, but you need to have the enemies confused for them to work. Also, quick pro tip here, using your clone while at full HP can intimidate enemies and make them back off, denying you plays, while ulting when being too low HP can be risky as you might get one-shotted at the same time as your clone, especially against enemies with AoE abilities. And here's a map with all the places you can reliably gank from, together with all the ward placements you can use and or watch out for. Also, when invading the enemy jungle, place wards at choke points or on open paths. Like this, you can see exactly the enemy's jungle path.
Yo.
And lastly, one more bullshit thing this game is guilty of: invisible jungle camps. This bug happens when using a blink ability into a jungle camp. I believe Flash works as well. So Riot, please fix. And that's it. That's the guide. What can I say now at the end except that it took me 1 week just to write the script. All I did was wake up, write, sleep, wake up again, write, sleep. So if you want to support my holy work, just hit the like button and subscribe if you have not done yet so. Also, share this video with your friends. If you have any, that is. And if you want to become a real Shaco god, go ahead and watch other guides I did. They're all in this playlist called Shaco Guides. Also, there's more to come. Hashtag 200,000 guides ready to watch, with 1 million more well on the way. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, lick my balls. I'm just kidding. As always, until next time, stay safe. Classic moment.